Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gents. This is DafubFilm&TV, and I belatedly, admittedly, because of life has the real world has asserted itself to the point of disrupting my watching of this show, but I have belatedly just watched episodes 4 of Gen V, and so without further ado, here is my review of said episode. There may be spoilers, there may not be. While Gen V does not appear to be setting the world on fire, unfortunately, it might well do so when all the episodes are out. Maybe so there's an audience out there waiting to binge every last episode of it. But so far, it does not appear to be setting the world on fire, which is a pity because it is, again, a much better show, principally driven by the much, much better quality writing than anything we've seen out of Disney, certainly in the last 12 months, maybe even the last 2 years. It is made by people who know how to make television, who know how to write television, both from story thread standpoint and from a dialogue standpoint, and know how to structure a television show in terms of the storytelling episode to episode to episode, which the people who've been making shows from Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm for Disney Plus clearly don't, which is particularly odd in relation to Lucasfilm because they were responsible for the Clone Wars animated show plus Star Wars Rebels, and also now the Bad Batch, and they tend to be, certainly in my experience, a more, what's the term to describe it? They from my memory of those shows says to me that they were better structured and better paced than what we've been getting out of Lucasfilm in terms of live action Star Wars shows. I don't think I don't remember, with the possible exception of Andor, I don't remember seeing anything from Disney Plus, either MCU or Star Wars, that is as a television show, as a streaming show, is as well put together and as well written as this. And that is a serious problem for Disney, and it's a serious problem particularly for the Star Wars IP, which has been run into the ground by Disney due to a combination of very bad creative decisions made by people who don't understand the IP at the top of Lucasfilm and the top of Disney. And in the case of Marvel, that has been in a rapidly escalating crisis since Avengers, is it Endgame or Infinity War, whichever one of those two movies came out second, which is kind of the height of the MCU Marvel Cinematic Universe. And because of deteriorating quality or lack thereof of content since, has been rapidly beginning to circle the drain. I'm not sure if any of the Marvel movies released this year have broken even at the box office or even let alone turned a profit. And this is true across the board. At Disney, their Pixar films haven't been doing well. The list goes on and on. There has been a bit of a temporary reprieve so far, and that so far I think Loki is it a great show? Loki season 2, again, I'll leave that till the season is at its full run, but season 2 is certainly much better written and much better put together so far, season 2 of Loki, than anything we've gotten out of Marvel or Star Wars from Disney Plus, again, in the last 12 months to 2 years. And this is better again than that. It genuinely is. It's being made by people who clearly know how to make big budget premium appointment television / streaming shows. They've put the scripts are there, the cast is there, the direction, the cinematography, the lighting, the production values. It's all there. The fact that the show Gen V doesn't seem to be setting the world on fire is, again, unfortunate, but hopefully when all the episodes have been released, I think there's 6 in total. Hopefully, if and or when that happens, that we will be looking at, I'm going to say, give or take, what is the word for it? Hopefully we'll be looking at a significant kind of upsurge in the number of views once the episodes are all out, And again, I can compare the show more effectively and accurately to Loki season 2, which is again still the best we've seen out of Disney in quite some time. The fact that this, for Amazon, I think this is on Amazon, is, I just watched it, so surely I should know if it's Amazon. And there's my memory for you. It may not be setting the world on fire, but it shows you that even on one of the less high profile, having less money thrown at it, streaming platforms. Again, this is Amazon Prime. That this is what even the smaller players in the space, although Amazon's a very big company overall, are capable of, and how Disney has completely failed so far to live up to that standard. If the quality of the writing in all the MCU shows and the Star Wars shows had been to this quality from day one, I'm not sure if Disney Plus would be a mega hit that would be giving Netflix a serious run for its money, but it's certainly would be in Disney Plus would be in much better shape. If I were Amazon, I would hold tight to the creative team responsible for this show and The Boys and Invincible. I think Seth Rogen's production company, I want to say. Could be wrong on that, but as far as where it is, and they, credit where credit is due, they really they know what they're doing. I mean, even if this is a kind of a second flight show compared to The Boys, it's still very good. Certainly very good compared to what Disney Plus has been throwing our way in the last 12 months to 2 years. I will say that, with the exception, I think, is, what is the name of the little characters, or her superhero name? Cricket. With the exception of Cricket, I don't really I can't remember the name of the other main characters in the show, and that may be because of the somewhat kind of disconnected way I've been watching it, because again, the real world has gotten in the way. So it's been again, I have to think, at least has the entire series been out by now? It's 6 to 8 episodes. If it is, certainly there's maybe only 1 to 3 episodes left, depending on how many episodes are in the season one, if it's 6 or 8 at this point. And I've only watched the first 3 up until I watched this one. So it's been a bit of a disconnect in terms of I haven't been able to keep up with the show, basically because of, again, what the real world asserting itself in my reality, shall we say. So maybe that might have a degree of why I can't for the life of me remember the name of any of the main characters, or that just might be my genuinely, it seems when it comes to this kind of thing, terrible memory. Or it could be the fact that while the show is much better written than anything Disney Plus has come up with lately, including Loki season 2, it hasn't succeeded in getting me emotionally invested in any of the main characters, or have them maybe stick out to me enough individually that I remember their names, or could be interested in looking up the actual cast and the name of the actors and actresses who are portraying them as well, which I haven't done either. So it's not necessarily I'm not saying this is the greatest show ever. This isn't like Game of Thrones or at its height, or season 1 of House of the Dragon, but it's certainly much better than what Disney Plus has been putting out. And if Disney Plus, if the average writing standard of Disney Plus's shows had been on par with this, Disney Plus would be and Disney as a whole would be in vastly better shape than it currently is. So as a whole, it maintains a good steady pace in terms of the storytelling, in terms of pushing the main plot threads along. It's very well put together. The production quality is at least on par, if not better, than a lot of the Disney Plus shows we've been seeing, but lacks their massive kind of structural weakness, which is just overall, whether it be the dialogue, the overall story threads, the overall storytelling, the writing just isn't anywhere near good enough. The pacing of the Disney Plus shows isn't anywhere near good enough, and it's certainly overall nowhere near to this standard, which it really should be. And Disney does, again, as I mentioned in the last video I did, Disney has apparently got 8 episodes into filming their new Daredevil show. Got to look at all the work that had been done since the actors and the writers went on strike, and said basically this isn't good enough, or nowhere near good enough, and they fired the entire creative team. They fired the directors, they fired the writers, the showrunners. I think everyone who's been involved, maybe with the exception of the cast, has been gotten rid of, and it looks like they're looking to start over from scratch. That's a really good sign. That may well be the turning point, but we're not going to see the kind of the this the resolving of Disney's kind of mistakes in terms of hiring people who don't know what they're doing, or are just not do know what they're doing but are just not very good at it. It doesn't look that it's going to take at least a year, maybe more, before we start seeing the fruits of Disney, going to town on its existing method of producing content for Disney Plus to actually get the writing to where it needs to be and the quality overall to where it needs to be. And so I would expect Disney Loki season 2 is likely to go down as kind of a temporary reprieve from the very poor writing and the very poor kind of quality of the shows that they've been making. And not in terms of necessarily production, in terms of, cinematography, lighting, and so on, set production, stuff like that, but just very poor, very, very poor writing. That really, really poor writing that they've up until now they've not been able to resolve. They get a good team together on and redo Daredevil. What they should do is they should hire the team that was responsible for Daredevil on Netflix and put them to work making a new show for them. But whether they'll do that, and the team who are working on Jessica Jones, if there were those writers are out there, those showrunners are out there, if they're available to be hired, I'd hire them. Not necessarily even to work on Marvel content. They could be put on working on Star Wars content, and you get better stuff out of Star Wars than we've seen so far. I have no hesitation in saying that whatsoever. But I don't think, even if, again, Disney does genuinely quite decisively shift its direction in terms of who it's hiring, the writing, the stories it's trying to tell, and so on, we're not going to see the consequences till late 2024. I think probably more like 2025. I think we've got at least another remainder of this year, well into next year at the earliest, of more of the kind of very poorly written, big budget content that they've been producing, with Loki season 2 maybe going down. With Loki season 2 maybe going down as the, what's the word for it? Maybe with Loki season 2 going down as a temporary reprieve in the quality of the writing we've been getting from Disney Plus shows. Although, again, it's Loki season 2 is not on par with this. It just isn't. It's not on par with this show in terms of writing, but it is demonstrably better than what we've seen from everything else in Disney Plus the last 12 months to 2 years. And I keep going on 12 months, 2 years, better than what we've seen out of Disney Plus lately, or from since the initial run of shows came to an end. But realistically, it's a pity the show isn't doing better than it is. It deserves to do better than it is. The cast deserves it. The people working behind the camera, the writers, the production crew deserve this show to be more successful than it currently is. And I highly recommend watching the show for anyone who hasn't watched any episodes of it from the beginning. And hopefully there is a binging audience waiting for every episode to be released to binge the whole show in like one weekend, or one Saturday or Sunday. But this is overall much better content than what we've gotten from Disney Plus. It's in line quality. I'm not sure if it's in line with The Boys. The Boys has both the combination of really good writing and a really strong cast that are both very, very able, and they all kind of stand out. I don't necessarily think that's the case in the terms of the cast here, Because again, I haven't gotten emotionally invested in any one of the particular individual characters, and I can only remember one of their names, Cricket. Here's the spoiler warning for the episode. They have really doubled down on the anorexia / bulimia kind of, what's the word for it, trope that they built into the Cricket character, where she makes herself, up until now we knew she was able to make herself small, really small, by vomiting up the contents of her stomach. But we now find out in this episode that if she actually eats and eats to the point where she goes back to normal size and then keeps gorging and gorging and gorging on more food, she can actually get really, really big. And I would assume as a result of getting really, really big, she can get really, really strong. That makes the character much more interesting and useful. And maybe she's been hiding this for some reason, why she would be hiding that power. But if she had the ability to make herself supersized and effectively as strong as anywhere near as strong as any of the main supers from the boys or from this show, she would surely be a much more high profile person on campus, and would probably have been in their rating system they have for their students much higher up the ladder if she was capable of punching someone like Homelander. I remembered his name, Homelander, into unconsciousness. Now maybe she's not that strong or that powerful, but there's a series of B movies, or is it just one B movie from the 50s or the 60s? I can't remember, in the US, revolving around a giant, huge, humongous woman. And then, of course, there was this animated film from a good few years ago now as well, that also included a female lead character who could make herself supersized and therefore super powerful. Can't remember the name of it though, or the original or the OG 50s, 60s B movie. But that has been a thing, and that's been a trope before. So, that's an interesting thing to the character, and they're going to explain, well, why haven't we found out about this before? Or is this going to be just kind of a da thing they're not going to explain, which would be bad writing, in my view. But it adds a layer to the character's superpowers. But it also means it's not only is she anorexic, but she's also potentially, bulimic at the same time, eating too much food, eating too little food. You get the idea. And it's a bit, as I said, it's a bit on the nose as far as I'm concerned, but and a bit of an eye roll. Although again, they do it because the writing is so good and the show is so well made. It's all done very effectively, very seamlessly. So there could have been a variety of ways they could do it, where if the people writing for Disney had written up that character, and the show would be nowhere near as well written, and there'd be people would be groaning all over the earth simultaneously upon seeing it for the first time. But again, the writing, the acting, the quality of the show mitigates against that problem. Anyway, if you haven't watched the show, I'd highly recommend doing it. Start from episode 1, work your way through. If you're planning on binging the show, again, unless episodes 5, 6, I don't know if there's 2 more on top of that. It could be 6 episodes total, could be 8. I don't know. Not right now. I'll go and check. Unless they really screwed things up in the last, a la Game of Thrones, in the last episode or 2 or 3, I'd highly recommend watching the show. Hopefully there is a binge audience out there waiting to binge it when all the episodes are out, and this show gets a lot more, more of the attention and the applause and the credit that it genuinely deserves. And it's kind of, it would be very, very unfortunate if the people who are still responsible for the very poor quality of the content that Disney Plus has been putting out over the last year or two continue, apart from the people who are working on that Daredevil show, continue to keep their jobs. That's not just the writers though, it's also the executives and so on top of them. Continue to keep their jobs, while maybe this cast and the crew and everyone else involved in the show just get 1 season, because due to, whatev the fates are, bad luck, good luck, just no one's watching it. That would be, again, in my view, highly unfortunate. So again, I think Gen V episode 4 maintains the quality and the strengths of the show up until now. Much faster paced storytelling than what you're seeing from Disney Plus. Much better writing overall, much better dialogue overall. The cast are maybe not up to the, like the cast on The Boys is just so, attention grabbing. They all stand out. They've got characters and dialogue and roles that they can really take advantage of. And again, I've not gotten personally emotionally invested in any of the characters in this, but that might be down to just the kind of disjointed way in which I've been currently watching the show. So maybe you'll get you'll react to the show differently. But up as it is, I even though I'm not hugely personally invested in any of the characters, I'd still recommend it as a really, again, it's not necessarily Game of Thrones or The Boys level, but it is a very well made, well written show with a good cast, and deserves to do significantly better in the quote unquote ratings than it actually is. Anywho, if you have opinions, as I'm sure you do, it's the internet, everyone's got opinions, leave your thoughts in the comments below, whether they be thoughts on the episode, thoughts on the video itself, any suggestions as to things I could do to improve it, or improve videos going forward. And if for some strange, insane reason you haven't already subscribed to the channel and liked the video, please do both, and ring the bell for notifications to get instant notifications when I upload new content. This is DafubFilm&TV signing off. Toodaloo.